Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. EDDBUD here with the first episode of a new series. May I introduce you to the Super Shoe World Cup. I'm really struggling without football. Also without the light at the end of the tunnel of one of those big football tournaments as well. So I've decided to organise my own using running shoes. Also I've got loads of these super shoes that aren't really going to get much of a outing in terms of racing this year. I've got to be honest, it's not looking particularly hopeful right now. Certainly here in the UK, I know in certain other places around the world people have been able to pull off some races, but it isn't looking like it's going to happen too much here in the UK, certainly for the foreseeable future anyway. So with that in mind, I'm going to get all the super shoes out and pair them off against each other. Just a couple of quick caveats to this one, guys. I'm not going to include the next percent. Now the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm just reviewing the super shoes of which I've tested out over the last 12 months. And I tested that one out way back in 2019. Seems like a long time ago now. So before you answer in the comments why haven't you included the next percent, well, that's why. In later episodes I'll look at all the other stuff, so the Brooks Hyperion Elite 2, we'll have the Rocket X in there, that does have a carbon plate, the Endorphin Pro of course, and the Alphafly, not forgetting the Carbon X2, and the A6 Meta Racer. Have I left anything out? I'll find a way to get the Adizero Pro in. I don't want to give it a wild card, so maybe if I can pair it up against something else, we'll get it in there. In the first round today, we have the Adizero Adios Pro from Adidas and the New Balance Fuelcell RC Elite. I've tried to take all the super shoes up to around about 50 miles of use. At least it gives me a reasonable appreciation of their different attributes and facets. Some of these shoes are actually quite rare. I know that you can't even get a hold of the Adizero Adios Pro at the moment, unless you want to hop onto StockX. That one's even rarer than a 1999 first edition shadowless holographic Charizard number 4. Okay, let's get to it. So, first vehicle up for a pit stop is the Adizero Adios Pro from Adidas. So when I first received this shoe and in the first run I was really quite underwhelmed by the shoe. It felt a little bit like an overcooked steak. Rigid and quite similar to what happens to a Domino's pizza if you leave it in the fridge just a little bit too long. A sullen affair really that first run, but it's been a sea change after that. I've wheeled the shoe out for some faster efforts, 10k personal best and loads of half marathon paced usage as well. I even used the shoe recently on some 1 mile repeats, so 1600 meters if you like that sort of thing, and it just felt dynamite. Just felt so easy at those paces in the Adizero Adios Pro. I really think it's the complete package here. Once you've harnessed its various features, you have to get used to this shoe. It's not one of those you can put on and instantly feel at home in. It takes time. It's like one of those houses that you might buy where you need to do it up a little bit and then it feels like your own. I think at the price point as well of 160 Earth credits, it leaves the competition in the dust. There's a 14-mile effort I did back in November, I think it was. The shoes felt really sensational that day. I don't think I felt particularly sensational at the start of the run, it just all came together. I do believe that part of the success of the shoe is down to that awesome lockdown over the top of the foot. I think that Cellar Mesh material just works so well, not only in this shoe, but also in the Adizero Pro too. It provides unmatched levels of foot hug. Is that a thing? It is now, and the shoe's looking and performing even better actually each run after 50 miles. I've got to say that the outsole rubber is absolutely terrible on grass, but on road and tarmac it's good. Exemplary, actually. That's what it is. More grippy on pavement and concrete than a well-masticated piece of chewing gum. Add to that the best tongue that you can possibly get on a shoe. So it's really saying something, hasn't it? But I think it is. It's absolutely superbly designed. The padding's just where it needs to be. It's like someone's actually thought about it. It's the same tongue actually that's featured on the Takumi Sen 6 and the Adizero Pro. In fact, the upper's pretty much exactly like the Adizero Pro. For me, performance-wise, it's certainly one of the best super shoes out there right now. If you can find one, of course. Certainly a very different view to what I had when I first utilised the shoe. Just goes to show you can't always judge a book by the cover. In fact, you can't ever judge a book by the cover. Bo Diddley told you that. This one just really works well for me in terms of performance, in terms of stability, and really the fit is dialed in. So certainly one to consider for my half marathon effort towards the end of this month. This one gets the EDDBUD seal of approval. So the second shoe up in today's World Cup matchup is the New Balance Fuelcell RC Elite. I don't think it could be any more different to the Adidas model if it tried. A very different feeling upper. It's exceptionally light, this shoe, as well. In fact, I think it's about the same weight as the Vaporfly Next Percent in my size. I instantly liked this shoe the instant I got it on foot, though I am a bit perturbed by why New Balance have chosen to put the logo in slightly different places on the left and right shoes on the toe box. If anybody knows why, please let me know. I think people with OCD might really struggle with that. Light, nimble, and very quick racer. And a bit like a weight-relieved version of the Fuelcell TC. It's a good shoe as well, but this one's quite a bit lighter. A vastly different outsole here, and I would suggest better on all surfaces than the Adizero Adios Pro. Really does work as a performance shoe. You don't need to think too carefully about the conditions that you're going to use this one in, though it does have one Achilles heel, which is the fact that there's a lot of padding here that seemed to soak up loads of water when I took it out on a very wet run. There's a really appropriate implementation of that carbon plate here with that Fuelcell midsole material. It's very compressive, this stuff. More compressive than the Lightstrike that's in the Adizero Adios Pro. But that does mean that the shoe's not quite as stable. Certainly if you're a rear foot striker, yeah, you're going to sink into that foam. I've been seeing a lot of people having problems with that Invincible run recently with that exact same issue. ZoomX is very compressive, and perhaps they're grabbing their first ZoomX shoe and they're really not enjoying that feeling. Without the plate, it's quite a different thing. Sticking to performance, I would suggest that this shoe is probably one of the closest things that I've purchased to the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit. It really is quite like that shoe, more than any other in fact. I knocked out some really quick 5k or 3.1 mile efforts in the RC Elite over the last few months, namely a very close to sub 20 minute 5k. Well, actually Garmin had it as 19:59, so I'll take it. That was for the Asics Ekiden event that I took part in November of 2020. Though I have to say that at times the shoe can feel like you're placing a lot more effort to get that sort of level of return. The foam is incredibly compressive, and I think there's probably better options to utilise at 5k. Do I feel like I was using more effort than perhaps the Adizero Adios Pro, maybe the Next Percent or the Tempo Next Percent even? I'd suggest I probably was, yes, and looking at my heart rate, it was that little bit higher. Maybe I just had some extra Weetabix that day or something, or I'd eaten pizza the night before, who knows? I'm not an elite athlete, I'm a non-elite guy, I just like running. Maybe it's that compressive foam, but there's that little lure there to overstride perhaps, just to increase the stride length a little bit, because that foam's just so darn squashy. It feels a little bit like you can get away with it, and sometimes your form can break down. You've got to be quite disciplined, I would suggest, with this shoe to get the best out of it. I think more diligence to keep that cadence nice and quick and just keep that form really in the zone. No slouch though, this shoe, and a number of 10k efforts actually have been some of my fastest. During testing it certainly produced the goods. So it does show that the shoe can work for me if I do focus on that cadence and form, and there's quite a big weight advantage between this shoe and the Adizero Adios Pro. So two very different shoes here, one much lighter with a vastly more compressive foam and a full-length carbon plate, and one vastly more voluminous foam behemoth in both the heel and the midfoot. It's of course got a souped up hot rod engine with that part plate in the heel and those energy rods in the forefoot. If I had to pick one of these to go into the next round, I think it would probably be the Adizero Adios Pro. This one just seems to sit really well in terms of my running style. It just works with me. I really like that newer innovative tech as well. It took a little while for me to get used to it, but now I have. Well, the possibilities are almost endless in terms of running anyway. It's not going to make me a better cook. I'd certainly consider this for a marathon, half marathon, absolutely. It even worked for 10k. I'm not entirely sure I'd wear it for a 5k. I've talked loads about the upper fit. You know it's good, and of course, most of my running is on road, pavement, concrete paths, that type of thing, so the outsole is good to go. So the Adizero Adios Pro will be up against the winner of the next shootout. That's between the Saucony Endorphin Pro and the Nike Alphafly Next Percent. Tune in to see who's victorious. Musical interlude time. I don't know what it is recently, but I've been going back right to the early 90s in like everything, watching early 90s TV shows, the sneakers, football, everything. I've just been returning back to that period. I think I had a particularly enjoyable time around then, and that is also the case for music too. I've been looking for tracks that I can use for this half marathon time trial that I'm going to do at the end of February, and I suddenly remembered, yes, The Prodigy. Now, going right back to The Experience, which is their first album, there's some awesome tunes on there. I remember I had a CD single which had a B-side of a track called Wind It Up, and that's got some real pace to it, ideal for that type of time trial. You guys all know Everybody in the Place, though the album has a different version of that track compared to the single that was released. Everybody in the Place had the Fairground version, which is much, much better. Just feels like a more clean and concise version of the track, and the little orchestral stabs and synth noises are just manic. Absolutely manic. Of course, everyone loves Outer Space. That's just a classic Prodigy track. If you haven't ever heard of that one, then what planet have you been living on? There's another track on there that was the one that really jettisoned the Prodigy into chart stardom, featuring a cat as well. I think that's probably Beast's favourite one. I think a lot of people in America would be clueless about that track, actually. I think it was about road safety or something. They sampled an advert and then put the bits in this sort of rave-style anthem. Awesome stuff. Rough in the Jungle Business as well is a really good tune. You got to check this one out, guys. Everyone knows the Prodigy's later stuff, and they became more breakbeat artists really than a sort of early rave or dance artist. Certainly worth checking out. The Experience by The Prodigy. There'll be a few tunes on there for the half marathon time trial. Okay guys, thanks for sticking with me to the very end of the video. I very much appreciate it. Hope you're looking forward to the next round. I am already. I'm going to get a packet of crisps and a 4-pack in anticipation of that one. And maybe I'll bring in a Vuvuzela as well. If you haven't done so already, it would mean a lot to me if you'd hit that subscribe button, and also click the bell for notifications of when I launch those new videos. It helps the channel out a huge amount too. If you give this video a thumbs up, like, and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you